Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I am Tiffany Baker, your chair, and we will start with the flag salute. Commissioner Faulkner, could you lead us in that? Please stand for the flag salute. On three. 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you. Erica, roll call, please.
Yes. Chair Baker. Commissioner Faulkner.
Here.
Commissioner Harris.
Here.
Vice Chair Huerta.
Here.
Commissioner Pastorian.
Here.
Commissioner Steed.
Here.
And Commissioner Wilson is absent.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any public comments, Erica?
We do have one email public comment, but no in-person public
Okay.
comments. This one is, I'll go ahead and read the rules. A total of 30 minutes is provided for members of the public to address the Race, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Commission on matters not listed on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the commission secretary or by submitting an email to be read aloud into the record at the meeting. Email comments must be submitted to readycommission@temeculaca.gov. Speaker cards for in-person comments will be called in the order received by the commission secretary, and then if time remains, email comments will be read. Email comments on all matters must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments. All public participation is governed by the council policy regarding public participation at meetings adopted by resolution number 2021-54. The email public comment is from Rick Reese. In the wake of recent explosive accusations leveled at student athletes, cheerleaders, and other students at Temecula Valley High School, there must be some sort of reckoning or accountability, as those charges have by and large have been demonstrably proven untrue and or unsubstantiated. Of course, this is specifically in reference to the racial allegations against Temecula students by a rival visiting sports team at TVHS in late summer 2021. It is incumbent upon this commission to begin considering strategies to advise the city council in the event that false accusations of racism and or fake hate crimes further crop up in our community. Just as racism, prejudice, and bigotry have no place in Temecula nor in America, race baiting and hoax hate crimes deserve the special places of infamy alongside these categories of hatred. False charges of hate crimes and racism are methods of character assassination and slander and must be countered and neutralized with the same vigor and intensity as countering actual racism and bigotry. Unfortunately, some incidents of fake hate crimes have been ubiquitous for some time. As far as the early to mid-2000s, there was hate crime hoax and the Claremont colleges, as well as the infamous Duke lacrosse hate crime hoax. Most recently, there have been the falsely accused Covington Catholic students, as well as a high-profile Jussie Smollett fake hate crime case. These instances of race baiting and fake hate crimes are more common than you think, as there are many well-documented lists of fake hate crimes. The recent accusations against TVHS students may very well fall into the despicable category. This adage, frequently attributed to Mark Twain, that a lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes, seems to be the case here with the Temecula students and their campus. The students of the TVHS campus may very well be asking the famous Raymond Donovan question, which office do I go to get my reputation back? As a REDI Commission, you need to be proactive by developing ideas and strategies for the City Council to address such instances of lies and slander should they occur in the future. Thank you for your time and attention.
That concludes your, thank you so much.
Public comment.
Okay, then we will go to the consent items. May I have a motion to approve the action minutes for October 14th, 2021?
Motion.
Second.
Approve. Second.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Pastorian and a second by Vice Chair Huerta.
Yes.
Chair Baker,
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Harris,
Aye.
Vice Chair Huerta,
Aye.
Commissioner Pastorian,
Aye.
Commissioner Steed,
Aye.
and Commissioner Wilson is absent.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we'll go on to the business item here. And we're going to receive an update on the Quality of Life Master Plan and Public Engagement Plan, and provide some recommendations, I hear. So, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. For those of you who don't know me or we haven't met yet, my name's Matt Peters. I'm with the Planning Department and here to give a short presentation just to give you status on the QLMP update and talk about our public engagement plan.
Thank you.
So if you're not familiar yet, the QLMP is going to serve as the foundation for the general plan update. I have the document here. It's the city's visioning document, and it contains 6 core values. Oh, you're getting the video? Okay. So then you have to look over your shoulder? Okay, perfect. Everyone can see the screen? All right. So the QLMP document identifies the city's 6 core values. Those include a healthy and livable city, economic prosperity, a safe and prepared community, a sustainable city, transportation, mobility, and connectivity, and an accountable and responsive city government. So the idea is that the QLMP will serve as the foundation for the general plan update. And then when we update the general plan, which contains state mandated elements, those will be organized underneath the umbrella of the QLMP document just for consistency. So one's kind of a big picture document, and the other is a more technical state mandated requirement. The graphic in front of you, I'm not going to go through all the detail on this, but essentially we've identified a 5-year plan for updating the general plan, and we've broken that down into 4 phases. The first phase is complete. We brought the housing element and the public safety element to the City Council in October, and we also address SB 743, which is a way to measure traffic as required by CEQA. And we're in phase 2, which is the Quality of Life Master Plan update. There are several other tasks associated with that, but the QLMP update is the big one. Then we'll move into phase 3, which will do a fiscal land use study and organize an RFP to hire a consultant to do the general plan update and the EIR. So with regard to the QLMP update, the City Council appointed a Blue Ribbon Committee, or a BRC, and that was done in April of 2021. And the Blue Ribbon Committee includes the General Plan Update Subcommittee, consisting of Mayor Edwards and Mayor Pro Tem Ron. There's also 1 representative from each commission and board, and then 16 at-large members. And the representative from the REDI Commission is Denise Wilson, who is not here tonight. Commissioner Faulkner has attended in her place, and I understand Commissioner Faulkner will be there on Thursday. Some of the BRC representing interests, and this is not all inclusive, but when they established the BRC, they tried to provide, representation from a variety of stakeholders. And just a sampling, we have representation from the Bike Temecula Valley Coalition, representatives from the special needs community, Interfaith Council, the school district, MSJC, the hospital, Visit Temecula Valley, and the Chamber of Commerce, Camp Pendleton, local businesses, Habitat for Humanity, and SWAG, which is Social Work Action Group. They work with our homeless outreach team. As far as meetings, we've had 2 meetings so far. The first was in August. That was an introduction, background survey results, and we talked about future trends and drivers of change. And then our last meeting was in October, and we discussed 2 of the core values, healthy and livable city and economic prosperity. And our next meeting is on Thursday, the 18th, and we'll be discussing 3 of the 6 core values. So we have established a website, and I handed out a card which includes the website address. There's also a QR code, so you can go to that, go to the website. That's basically where you're going to find everything related to this process. You can get a copy of the QLMP document. All of our videos are noticed and open to the public, and we videotape those, so if you can't attend, you can watch them after. We did a True North survey. Those results are on the website. There's a feedback button if you want to give us feedback or input. You can send us an email. You can sign up for email notifications. And there's a questionnaire coming soon, and actually the questionnaire went live on Saturday when we were at the farmer's market, so people can begin to fill that out. So that's a status update on where we're at. We've had a couple meetings. We're going to have our third meeting in November, and we have a total of 6 planned with the Blue Ribbon Committee. And then we'll be back to give another update to all of the boards and commissions before it goes to the City Council in spring. As far as our community engagement goals, we're working with our consultant. We have 4 major goals. The first is to facilitate a community-driven approach to update the QLMP. We want to solicit input from stakeholders across age groups, cultures, and interests. We want to focus on connecting with hard-to-reach groups that have not traditionally participated in the planning process. And we want to provide a comprehensive and transparent planning process. So our phase 1 of community engagement includes the project branding and the website. We came up with the QLMP logo and the website. We're going to be doing an informational video and more social media posts to get more public input. The community questionnaire is live. You will see a social media post for that very soon, encouraging people to take the survey. We did our first pop-up activity at the farmer's market on Saturday. I'll talk a little bit more about that, and there will be more. We're going to do 2 community workshops, one virtual. During COVID, the first part of COVID, we learned that different segments of the population are able to participate better if we do a Zoom or a virtual workshop, so we're going to do one of those, and we're also going to have an in-person workshop. There's commission and boards presentations, and then we're also going to do a high school curriculum module. And I think it was at our first meeting we got some feedback that we really need to engage youth. So what we're going to do is work with the local school district, charter schools, private schools, and try to develop an assignment for social studies or whatever they call youth in government these days. We'll give them an assignment, we'll gather their feedback and report that back to the BRC and include that in the QLMP document. So I mentioned a Saturday pop-up event at the farmer's market. We had about 50 people stop by the booth. We thought that was pretty good. When people came to the booth, they were able to, read a little bit of background about the QLMP update. You can see the QR codes there, so if you scan that with your phone, like you're taking a picture, it takes you to the website. And then we had people fill out, what do you love about Temecula? And then we also asked specific questions to the core values. We got a lot of good feedback. We're going to report that back to the Blue Ribbon Committee. I don't know if you can read those, but a lot of different reasons people love Temecula. And we got some good feedback regarding, healthy and livable city, economic prosperity. It was very interesting to just kind of have people stop by and chat. So we thought that was extremely valuable. And basically that concludes my presentation. I think what we'd like to do is just get feedback from who we can reach out to. If you have recommendations for a pop-up event that a good place for us to go to get feedback, we're all ears.
Have we thought at all about just going back to old school mailing? I mean, there's definitely a huge segment of the population that does everything on social media, and the city's really good about putting it out in so many different ways, but the mailing for older people or people that are not engaged in social media, and I know it costs a fortune, but is there any way we can make that happen?
That's a good suggestion. There are city newsletters that go out, and I'm hoping the timing allows us to do that. We'll include an article and, links to the website so people can go there. If they don't have access to the internet or the web, We do plan on working with TCSD or our Community Services Department to reach out to senior citizens. We do plan on doing hard copies of the surveys, and if anyone requests, we can mail them a survey. So, yeah, we'll try to do as much of that as possible.
Right.
Commissioner Steed, I will add that there was a city newsletter that went out recently, and the QLMP reference might already be in there. I know there was a redistricting reference, but the city newsletter goes to 41,000 plus residential households. So, so that mailing aspect of it was definitely covered.
Okay. Hi, so I just wanted to acknowledge some great things that I heard that you're doing. I really think that the high school module is an excellent idea to have that placed in high schools and see how students engage and speak about their experience within the community and have that be considered for the QLMP. Yes. I also think that the farmers market event is absolutely great. I love the farmers market. As I was growing up, I was there all the time. I still continue to be there. That's a great way to engage with the community. My suggestion would be honestly old school door to door for identified communities that are underrepresented. I know for general elections, they still do that because it really works. It works. Knocking on the doors, asking people what they would like, what they need. If you've identified communities, and we have specific communities that we know that live in affordable housing in Old Town that might be underrepresented. Why can't I speak today? Underrepresented. There's just a way of going out and really giving a personal touch to the city hears you. Your voice is valuable. And you might not always be able, because you're working, to attend these events and talk about this. So.
Very good. I'd like to share, Leanna, I don't know if you can. Does it go here? Start technology. Like that? Can they? No, I got it. So I know Brandon Rabideau was just here at the last meeting. He gave an update on the housing element. And in the housing element, we identified all of our stakeholder engagement, and it included those types of things where we actually, the cards that I gave to the city clerk and were handed out, we're going to be giving those to all of these stakeholders and providing copies. So you can see, you know, just I'm not going to read them all, but affirmed housing, AMCAL housing, those are affordable housing projects, different stakeholders, different nonprofits, different county organizations, and then it continues on the back and is quite inclusive. So we'll probably expand on that as part of our efforts with the quality of life master plan engagement, but that's our starting point, and we'll be doing that.
If I could just add, when it comes to the affordable housing and entities that you have on here, when you hand these cards to the owner or the landlord, sometimes they don't reach the residents. So I think it's a really great idea to hand it to the heads of these organizations and the affordable housings, but sometimes it really needs to be to an individual like here. And I think the mailing idea is absolutely great as well, because it's a way to ensure that every individual gets it.
Yeah, thank you. We'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. Somebody else?
We're just going to wrestle over here
No,
as to who's speaking.
I would just say, again, pop-ups in the districts across the city, looking for opportunities to pop up in each district to allow those citizens in those districts to be able to be a part of that. Really taking that out to until specific areas to set up something and really advertise it where people can come in and actually provide feedback. Another thing would be the our sport games. You know, I was at the park, I'm mentoring a little kid, and there was a high volume of people there at the football game, soccer. It would be a good good to look at some of the sporting activities here that draw a high volume of people to be able to do a pop-up to gather information there as well. So just something to share.
Good suggestions. We hadn't really considered doing one in each district, but that makes good sense. And we were going to work with TCSD for some of their, special events, but sporting events as well. You see the sports parks and all the people playing soccer. There's a lot of people to reach.
Exactly.
I just had a quick question, and maybe I missed it, but I want to just go back and touch on it. Under the goals, you had mentioned, in quotations, hard-to-reach groups. And so I just wanted to know exactly, obviously, you I assume, know exactly which hard-to-reach groups those are, but that would certainly help drive some very specific and direct communications if we understood and knew which hard-to-reach groups those are.
So the hard-to-reach groups are difficult to identify. I think this list is our starting point, and the purpose of providing this status update to all the boards and commissions is really to get that feedback, and especially from the REDI Commission to find out who else should we be considering that's not on our radar. So if you have suggestions, that's what we'd like to hear.
I like to say, and just sitting in on the BRC, and look, you have a very inclusive group that you guys have already really engaged. So I think you're getting a lot of good feedback. But again, some of those other areas just to get you outside of the shelter here and getting out in the community would be those opportunities. So, but I would really like to add that, and the group that you have together is very inclusive, and will provide some great feedback as well. So.
Appreciate that. I think, geographically, we want to hit all parts of the city. From an age standpoint, just different groups, nonprofits, we want to try to hit them all. So if you have specific recommendations for organizations, groups we should add to the list, or, you haven't seen this entire list, but we will take all of your feedback.
I was going to share this meeting, but we just a little popcorn, so I don't know who running the meeting. I'm just riding the weight show to see who should I call on, or should somebody call on me tonight. I'm just trying to understand my position here. So, okay.
Thank you, Chair Baker. So I was going to say the different districts as well. I even had a star next to it, so I think that is a great idea, the different districts. But also all the upcoming events. I know there's some huge events coming up, particularly the parade coming up on December 4th. So those types of events, I think there's a large population out there. You probably will get a lot of feedback. But I was also going to ask if we can get a copy of that updated stakeholder list. And we can email any suggestions to Randy once we take a look at it, if that's okay.
It's a good idea. I can share it with Randy and.
And so I think you answered this already about having hard copies at these pop-ups. I know you've only had one, and I know there'll be multiple. I don't know if you encountered anybody that needed the survey in a different language, but I don't know if you have that readily available, and if not, if one could be provided to the individuals.
Yeah,
shortly
we
after.
plan to do that. We do plan to do that. Make it available in all languages.
Awesome. And then as far as the virtual workshops, I know for me, sometimes it's hard to attend workshops or meetings after work or during work. My hours vary sometimes. So I think you mentioned one virtual and one in person, but I would recommend maybe more virtual, at least a couple more, even like a lunchtime. For me, I know it's kind of, for me personally, it would be helpful to do a lunchtime webinar or workshop. That would work best for me.
And to
And
consider
probably
the
others.
working class for that, because a lot of people want to participate, but by the time they finish working, taking care of their kids, commuting, coming home, the last thing they're going to do is participate in this. But we have found engagement is very high when you go online these days. May I suggest that we look at what organizations has business license here? Because I own a nonprofit, I have a business license, and I am the chair of the REDI Commission. and my organization is not on there. So I'm just kind of befuddled of who made this list and where we're getting the list from. And also seeing this though, I understand everyone has an affinity to youth here, but I specialize in kids. This is what we do. This is why I'm here. I'm here to make sure that children's voices are heard. So it's just kind of a little concerning that I'm sitting here and no one's ever asked me. Our representative is gone and we have another representative. And so I think so everyone will feel inclusive, including kids. The demographics of children and family have changed because they are not going to schools anymore. TVSU just opened up a homeschool program. So how are those school students being met, you know? We want to make sure that we are working with people that's having their finger on the industry in which we're trying to reach. Because it's very important when we say we're reaching kids, and particularly that we're focusing on what matters to them and how to really reach them and what their needs are from the city, you know? Mm-hmm. So those are some of the conversations that I think we should really have as a city in terms of the quality of life, because who are we creating a quality of life for? Our children, right? So that kind of, I just felt some kind of way like, we've made all the stakeholders, and I was sitting here like, they don't think I'm a stakeholder. But I think, that's not true, I'm just saying, but I think other people may feel that way, that's not on the list, and so this is about being inclusive. This is an inclusive statement. This is a know your stakeholders that's amongst you first, your closer stakeholders, before you move to your further stakeholders. Because some of these individuals, I didn't even really recognize their names in terms of being organizations here in Temecula, serving Temecula families. I'm not saying that they're not.
Yeah.
So how can we work together too? Because we want to get the information out for you. So maybe we can get that same list, ask them, the nonprofits. That's why I asked the question. It just wasn't about me. I'm just saying you know.
Yeah.
But if we send it to them, one of the things I used to do for the county is I would ask anyone that was receiving funds from us, anyone that we were granting to be our conduits for our information, because they were reaching populations that we weren't necessarily reaching, but we were funding them to reach for us. So that may be a good way, you know, because you have so many stakeholders from that standpoint. Also, I want it to be something to be considered as a safe messenger, because if we want people to give us truthful feedback, you know, we have to put it in a place where people feel safe and comfortable to answer the questions, so we can really get the heart of what's going on in Temecula from all walks of life, you know, coming from REDI, this is what I'm supposed to tell you. You know, making sure that we're really thinking about that, because I just feel like a lot of people are missing. But I also want to say, you all have upped your social media game, because I get it all. I just post, I saw this, I was so excited. I'm like, I even reshared it, like, the city is asking for your help. Come on, get involved. And I love the pop-up thing. This here is like amazing because you meet people in their natural habitat. So even maybe we do some pop-ups at the parks, maybe Friendship Park. You know, we can go to Friendship Park and say, we want to meet some friends at the park and discuss the quality of life for our city. You know, like make it fun, bring your kids, and we can get surveys like that. So I don't know if that helps.
No, it definitely helps. And keep in mind, we're at the beginning of the process. We're in phase 1 of the engagement plan, and that's a big part of why we're here, is to find out who do we need to reach out to.
Right, okay.
So this list is not the final list, it's really a starting point, and we would hope that you add to that, double that.
Okay.
We're looking for your feedback.
But that business license, look, two things I thought that we can get the data good, you know, because we have some data. If you have anyone that has a business license here, maybe we can ask the businesses as a whole, whether they're nonprofit, for-profit, could they advertise for us? Could they put this card maybe in their window?
I was actually going to tack onto that because my thought actually was one thing is, going back to the hard-to-reach group, a lot of people have to go to the doctor. And if we can find some places, that are reaching, certain places, Rancho Family Medical, or
Neighborhood
just some
health.
different places, right, Temecula Valley Health, where we're hitting parents of pediatrician offices versus, some of our senior care facilities, then we're reaching some of those places as well. So this type of thing right here is really great with the QR code, I think, but putting it out there to some of those businesses, certainly where people are sitting and waiting and need information, this is something like, I've got nothing else to do but sit here and wait, I'm gonna scan it and learn and figure something out. So I would suggest doing something like that as well.
Thank you.
We overwhelmed
This,
you.
this was meant to be established as this visioning document, the QLMP, was meant to be a coffee table book, so to speak,
Oh,
an easy read.
doctor's office.
And perhaps we could have some extra copies made and just leave it in the doctor's office.
Doctor's offices.
You can read this instead of People magazine or whatever.
Yes.
Because women and children are there. So I said OB-GYN offices. I was joking, but not really. So I wanted that to go on the record because where are the demographics that we want to reach? At the OB-GYN clinics.
If I
In
may-
particularly,
Yes,
yes.
and if I may add, Chair Baker, the libraries,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Look, you don't start us now. I mean, he can't keep us quiet. Go for it.
I'm just curious. And you probably already have this information because it would make sense, but I'm curious if you've done the research, I'm assuming you have, to know exactly what your target is in order for people to make these decisions. Because, like in certain organizations that I would be a part of, I know that I'm looking, when I'm marketing or putting information out, that I need to hit a particular age group, typically a mother's between this age and that age, and they will spin in certain circles, so I know that I have to go to different organizations or start advertising in certain places, and also knowing the times that they're streaming through the social media. So our ads will fly at a certain time, and we know that they won't have a greater attention span locked into something than more than probably about 36 seconds. So we have about that much time to lock in and to put out what we want to put out in order to attract them to what we know we want them to be attracted to. So I'm curious if you've done similar research in that, and what that looks like. Have you identified and gotten it that narrow at this point? So you know where, that's a pretty strong direction and very specific, but.
We're trying to reach everybody. As far as the social media content goes and when they do the postings, what they're trying to cover, I rely on them quite a bit. They do track likes, views, shares, all of that information, and at the end, we'll have that data compiled so we know how many views, how many likes, how many shares we did receive. I think we're only planning one video, so the attention span, we'll keep that in mind. We know short videos are better.
Right, and I only say that because, again, coming from a youth-led organization, we know we're looking at moms because
Right.
they're the ones that are typically the ones making those decisions for their children and what they place their children in. But we have just so much time in order to get that, because it happens at night, that they're scrolling.
Right.
And it's just a video because it's typically no sound even. So it's an image. It's not even what's actually verbally being said, but it's the images that they're seeing that are actually making the difference to make them make a decision, which is pretty powerful, really. So just
Yeah,
curious.
when you provide feedback, if Randy shares the stakeholder list and you add to that, as part of the feedback you give, if you could provide some of that background, some of those suggestions, we can share that with our social media team. I'm not a social media expert. I do know that Sunday nights are good because people are sitting gearing up for the rest of the week, and Sunday nights are good for scrolling, and so postings on the weekend.
Is that
So
something,
then-
Randy, when that data comes in, that can be shared with the commission as well, just so that we can see sort of even who is tuned in more than others to some of the things that are happening, not just with the QLMP, but maybe perhaps broadly with the city in general.
Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner Pastorian. I will say our social media team is very strategic in the priority order of what gets posted at what time to target what specific audience, because you don't want to burn out with content either. And then they track all of that data. So we will go ahead and see if we can't get some data from them in regards to some of these QLMP posts, but just broadly as well, and share that with you.
Commissioner Steve.
Okay. So I love this, and I love the ideas of having a doctor's offices, but I know there's also a scam with QR codes, so it might be helpful to add the city seal or something to that, just so people will know it's authentic. So that might be a good idea, but I do love this. Going back to the chairwoman's point that it's always good to start with our own partnerships. So our database as a city, who are our partnerships with? Who are our stakeholders that we give grants to, or we have close partnerships that we help each other out, and that should be kind of an expectation that they share the information with the people that they reach out to, along with the commissions, of course, and the council should be sharing all of that information. In regards to the webinars, about having them at different times, at lunch times, I would love for you guys to promote the recordings of the webinars, because then somebody can watch them whenever they want. I mean, we all know that everything's on the website, but not necessarily everybody does. So I think to share even the YouTube channel more often, so people have access to the meetings that they're missing, I think would be really, really valuable. Again, for seniors, it's always a little bit harder because they're not so tech savvy all the time. But anyway, we can reach them and help them. I think maybe, giving access at some of our senior communities and providing that to them, maybe talking to the people that are in those libraries and having it up on the screens for them, making all that really easy as possible. I'm assuming that because you work in hand with the school, that you also have access to kind of is it the Peachtree system that they send out? Because we get those all the time, but yeah. But that's a really good way to reach the schools too. And how about the leaderships at the schools? So in the high schools, the junior leaders within these schools, I think, would be great advocates for being really involved in our community and help it progress to the next stage and many years ahead. I think would be great.
All good suggestions.
And for the
Thank
sake
you.
of just
Taking
recording
notes.
this, because we know you can't take all of this in. We don't.
Oh, I'm writing down as much as I
Don't stress
can.
yourself out. You do know it's going to be, don't stress yourself out. So what about pediatrician offices? I know I told you for the moms, but, for the kids, where they take the kids. I just need to make sure I have, what about pop-ups in the mall?
Yeah, that's one's on our list.
That's one on your list? Okay, well, and then, of course, weekends and Sundays. And I just had an interesting conversation, in particularly, with some of my Jewish sisters and brothers, and I never even thought about when we do so many activities on Saturday, if they can't participate. I was like, I never even thought about that. So
Luckily, we have Rabbi Rosenstein on our Blue Ribbon Committee, so thankfully she's on there.
But to even think about putting out when we do our events, or, in terms of some of these pop-ups, that may be considered a hard-to-reach community. So maybe speaking with the rabbi about how do we best come into your community to get your community's feedback. That's kind of why I brought it up, because I had never even thought about that. Like, wow.
That brings, you said that, and of course I triggered to something different, but, because my brain works that way. Vail Ranch, right? So Vail Ranch headquarters, they're doing they do the winter, Christmassy type stuff there as well, but that might be some place, there's some really big bustling times there that would be a great time for a pop-up.
Yes. They have the Sunday Fun Day, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, on our immediate list was the mall and Vail Ranch.
Okay.
And then you mentioned the 5 districts, so
I think the 5
Yeah,
districts are good. Like, what
Yeah.
parks can we go into? Because that's
Yep.
the easiest way to get families to come out. Parks. What major parks are in each district? Don't
Right.
forget our Friendship Park, though, okay?
That one's at the top of the list, too.
you know, I love
Like,
it so
even
far.
partnering with some of the HOAs host large events for
Yes.
things, and that might be another area, reaching out to those HOAs
Yeah,
as well.
we have a mailing list of all of the HOAs. We'll definitely be sharing this information with them. And we're going to rely heavily on the boards and commissions to share our work effort as well. It's going to take a village, so to speak, to
It
really get the
it's
word out.
Truth. It's true.
Yeah.
Well, and I
Yep.
gotta tell you, I really, and Commissioner Harris really touched on it honestly, but I just want to echo what she said, and that's the high school module
Yes.
piece. That is
For
so
even
incredible.
homeschoolers.
So incredible.
Yeah.
Partnering with somebody, perhaps even in curriculum at TVUSD, a very specific kind of, set your sights on a person. But that would be something, or maybe even going to each of the sites, the high school sites, and maybe even the middle schools, frankly, to start seeing what projects they can do, because they are sometimes a bigger marketing piece than just adults, really. They're the ones who are social media all over. And they're doing it, certainly in their leadership classes, they are doing it for their school. So to tag on something like this would not be that difficult for them. And looking at honestly, with Great Oaks IB program, this is like right up that kind of, a project like that would be great.
Commissioner Harris.
I was just gonna say the YAC, the Youth Advisory Council, would be a great group of individuals to speak to about this, and see what they could do to create events around reaching out to other students, high schoolers, young teens who would be interested in engaging with the city.
Yeah, they were just at the last council meeting,
Amazing.
so we can reach out to them. I had mentioned at our first meeting, we had looked at trends and drivers of change, and one of the things we discovered, which isn't a big surprise, but the age 20 to 29 cohort, those people tend to leave the city and hopefully come back, but that's going off to school, going off to college, and it's part of many things that we're looking at, but how to keep that age cohort in the city. And a big part of that is MSJC and the opportunity to go to school here, but also jobs and housing, and there's a lot that goes into it. But I do agree with you 100%, engaging middle schoolers, high schoolers, we want their feedback.
And I keep advocating for my babies that are not in the traditional schools. So if you share something for youth, that curriculum or that project or whatever data, if you can share it with the organizations that work with youth, because maybe they can do some of their things in our after-school program, the Boys and Girls Club. What could they do with it's different pockets of kids they need some projects, to get involved.
Understood.
I just wanted to add, maybe being outside of the gym. Yeah, I heard 20 to 29. Most of the time when I'm out and I see people my age, it's either at the gym or at the club.
That's true.
You can't be at the club, so you got to be at the gym.
Well, she might need to go to the club.
Because, I mean,
Get your data.
Old Town is a lot different than when I was a kid. It's now bustling, and so
Right.
many young people go there. And it's a great way to, if you want to know where the young people are who are in the city, they're in Old Town. But just reiterating the idea, I know that we don't know quite yet who I want to get the term right. What was it? The hard-to-reach groups?
Yes.
We don't know exactly yet who you've identified those individuals as well as, I know we are going to get the list of the foundations and affordable housing projects. I just want to reiterate, as a group that may be hard to reach, those individuals in affordable housing are going to be the people that are hard to reach. And
Yes.
having access to computers, TV, social media, those are all a luxury. Having time to go to the library, having time to go out to the park and do these things, they're a luxury. Having a city that will meet you where you are at, who will see you face to face and communicate these things, not just a flyer, because if I see a flyer, I'm going to throw it out. I don't care. That's how most people are. There has to be a way to communicate the importance of this. with people who are most vulnerable, who are most underrepresented. And that is the way just to reiterate, I think it would be to reach at least one group.
Commissioner Faulkner,
might be
you too?
Yeah, appreciate that feedback.
No, I agree. Thanks for bringing it up. But the other thing is, we are a bed down community, and it's really a struggle here all the time trying to get communication out and trying to get most of our citizens to be engaged in the process. And looking at a city of 100,000, what are we trying to impact? Is there a certain number we're trying to reach? What is that good number? Is that 50,000 residents providing feedback? What is that? What is the expectation? And what we're looking at with trying to get feedback from our citizens as well, because we want to make sure we get a huge sample size and engaged in this process. So I know we've got a lot of good things. One of the things, I'm a veteran, so I know we haven't brought that up, and you probably are reaching out. I know Camp Pendleton is involved as active duty, but are we engaging our veteran groups to the VFWs, American Legions locally to engage and get their feedback as well? So that's a different type of feedback that we need to have in this process as well. In addition to, I looked at the app, is there ability to put the QLMP not embedded in the things associated with the city app, but actually have it as a highlight out where you can click on it, not go look for it. So it'd be great to have QLMP just for the short term while we're doing this on the outside of the app so people can visually see it, click on it, and then be able to access what we're doing there as well. Because right now you have to actually click on something to go into something to find it. So it'd be good for the short term if we could look at putting it actually on the app where it stands out, where I go to it, click on it, and then I can get engaged with QLMP.
And on the
So
link,
the app being different from the website?
Yeah,
The city app, the scroll
city app.
button?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was gonna say, can we put it on the landing page of the website?
Yeah.
Of the city's website. Take this survey. Okay, Commissioner Vice Warda, Commissioner Steve, you are next. You all have been waiting. I'm trying to see
it's
back
okay.
and forth. Go for it. I'm trying
Thank you,
here.
Chair Baker. I was just gonna say, if we can add a phone number or something to this, because some people might not have access to the internet or be able to use a scan code. So at least they could contact somebody if they do want to get involved, and they can kind of walk them through that process. And then back to the Peachtree, I have 2 kids in elementary, and although I do love those flyers, I do get a lot of them sometimes. So I don't see them, all of them, all the time. But I do know at the end of the week, they come home with a folder with a bunch of different
Right.
flyers. So, and I do go through those. So just making sure that's part of that, that packet. And then I know I had mentioned more virtual workshops, but also in person, because I think they mentioned 1-on-1. But just for individuals that prefer that in person, I think at least a couple more.
Very good.
Thank you, thank you.
So you had mentioned the mall, and since Director Tammy Marine is on the Blue Ribbon Committee, and now we have a huge audience at the mall, Christmas Tree Lane, it might be a really good idea to get these codes over there at one of our tables, because we have hundreds of people walking through Christmas Tree Lane all the time. So I would say
Great
reach out to
suggestion.
Tammy,
I will bring extra copies on Thursday.
right?
Commissioner Pastori.
I heard you. You're right next to me. It's kind of funny, we probably take it for granted, I think, living here in Temecula in beautiful wine country, but partnering with some of our wineries as well. Certainly, the weekends are big tourist times and we get a lot of outsiders, but during the week is a pretty heavy local population that is going that we should be able to reach out to. So I would say partnering, maybe identifying certain ones even that tend to get more, but putting that card out again with all the relevant information is another way to, or having it on a table somewhere is
Right,
another place.
Right.
I don't know if you heard what Commissioner Steve said. I don't know if she said it where we can now understand why she's asking. It's a scam going on with the codes now. And I don't know, it says you have to say that it's a safe code, because now people are they're saying for the restaurant, but this is becoming a thing, right? When you go to the restaurant because of COVID, you scan, where now hackers are taking the codes And so it has to be a certain kind of coding to make sure that the information doesn't now land on the person's phone. So a lot of people are apprehensive because what's going on in the news about the code, just so you know.
No, I did catch that to make sure
Okay.
it's legit. There's always something.
Always, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's another good point, just to make sure it's legit, people are safe to use the code. And I realize the QR code isn't isn't gonna reach everybody, so.
But if, I used it as we were sitting here, and it just goes straight on my phone to the website and says, take the survey in bright green, so it's hard to miss it. So it's definitely effective, but I think having the city seal on it, I think might help put people's mind at ease.
It's a good suggestion.
And so we won't waste the money, just, we can put a sticker if that's, I'm just trying to help the budget. Because I know you have a lot of these, so maybe it's simple, just put a sticker, I don't know. Something to identify that it's officially from the city.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so are all hearts clear? We have given you so much. Did we overwhelm you?
So I will tell you, this is the most notes I've taken at any of the boards and commissions meetings, and I appreciate the feedback. And we are truly relying on you to help us identify those groups that are underrepresented or hard to reach groups. That's our goal. We don't always know who those are. We're just gonna, and the list will probably grow and continue to grow all the way till the end. I don't think it'll ever be done, so. Let us know, give us your feedback. And if you think of something, go to that website and you can hit the suggestion button, and I think it goes directly to me.
So Randy, just to recap, you guys gonna bring us back that hard to reach or under-reach population as is identified, correct?
For this purpose?
Yes?
Yes.
For the stakeholders. He said that, Commissioner Harris, could you help me?
Underrepresented groups or hard to identify groups. They said they don't have that. They're relying on us to have that.
Oh,
So there's
okay.
another list that he showed on here that had
Oh,
the
okay.
affordable housing, all the orgs, nonprofits that they'll reach out to.
Okay, so you want us, I'm glad you clarified that, I was confused. So you want us to give you a list of hard-to-reach individuals, or are you saying you have a list that's not quite solidified? Do you
So-
want us to come back with some information for you? I guess that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, so we'll share.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
We-
we'll
we'll-
go ahead and Matt will share that list with us. We will email it out to you and ask you to review it, to go ahead and add anybody that you think is missing off of that list.
So that's for the service stakeholders, right?
This is the underrepresented groups that are identified on the stakeholder list.
It's one
It's one
list.
list.
Okay,
It's one
'cause see-
list.
okay, so I think we're talking about population versus providers. That's why I'm trying to verify here, because
Got it.
I want to know who is the underrepresented people group.
The hard-to-reach groups
Of our-
that is identified in the goals.
Right, in the
which-
goal,
yes,
that's what I'm clarifying. I just
Right.
want to make sure I'm I'm just getting my.
Which is not the
thank you.
provider list.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe it's,
So that's what I'm trying, you're going to bring us that list back, correct?
so maybe it's two lists. Maybe you help us add to our
That
stakeholder
list,
list.
yes.
And then maybe you can expand on that by identifying the other hard-to-reach groups, the population groups, as you mentioned, younger
I-
children.
I'm gonna say the hard thing right now because I'm not coming. So every time I hear this, is what I'm hearing is that you're saying the other hard to reach groups. So currently there is none. There is no other because we have not identified any based off of some of what you were saying earlier. So that's part of what we need to, what I'm understanding, which is what you were, I
Trying to
think, iterating.
clarify.
Commissioner Harris, correct?
Made it difficult to make recommendations when we don't know who you've identified as hard to reach groups
Right,
and how
correct,
you can
right.
better service them.
Right, correct.
So I think, unfortunately, I made an error when I made a clarification, but we all needed a clarification. In that list, you have specific nonprofits that you see as connections to underrepresented, hard-to-reach groups.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. If you can help us expand that list, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so Commissioner Pastorian, let me see if I can clarify I want to make sure that I'm understanding
Okay.
what it is that
We
you
just
all are
speak
trying
peace and
to.
take authority over
Yeah.
confusion so we can be clear. 'cause
Yeah, yeah.
This
no,
is important. This
and
is
it
important.
It is important, and I want to make sure that Matt and I have good direction on what we're bringing back to you
Right.
guys. So for example, the census, when we're doing the census, we identify hard-to-reach populations as military, as children under 5, as homeless, houseless individuals. There are set groups that are designated by the Census Bureau as underrepresented groups. And then there are list of strategies and/or providers to specifically identify those groups.
Take a breath, take a breath. I have a question. So can we have that list?
The census one?
Yes, that's, and I say that because we've been waiting for that data to come back because it's difficult to make recommendations. These are just conversations. For those of us that really want to give you a recommendation, we need data. We need to know what have you, I've been asking for this and we've been waiting for the census to be done. But it will be helpful for us to give you real help, really, to be quite honest with you, if we can see what it's showing, you know?
We don't have the
You
data
still
yet.
don't.
We
Oh.
do not have the data from the federal government. What I do know, what I am referring to, is when the census is conducted.
Okay. Oh, okay.
When the census is conducted, the federal government identifies certain hard-to-reach populations as people that are difficult to get census responses from.
So I 100% and completely appreciate the identity and the clarity in that, but when we are discussing goals, certainly as it pertains to our particular community in the QLMP, then I think we need to actually list that out. Hard-to-reach groups as
Stated in the
right,
federal
for
guidelines
example,
or
what
da,
have
da,
you.
da, 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 da. So
Because
everyone's speaking
we
the
are
same
not,
language.
that's not a goal. It's an unachievable goal. It's not something that we can actually measure currently at all because we we can't identify it. So if we can specifically put some pieces to that and fill in some gaps, that helps certainly our commission, but I think it also helps our community understand what we're trying to do and our goals that we're trying to achieve if we have clarity with regard to who we're trying to get to. So I will say that with that same note though and that same sentiment, one of those pieces, and I will just identify one quick group as an example, I think, and certainly one that I'm as Commissioner or Chairman Baker over here, Chairwoman Baker, she mentioned the hard to reach group is sometimes the non-traditional schooling that we're, the difference in schooling there. And I would just simply add to that, really, those of our kids who are in non-traditional homes. We have a lot of families that are in non-traditional homes. And that is, quite frankly, a quality of life we need to be looking at how we can improve their life. 100%, especially as we look at next generation, right, within our own community specifically. So when we have multi-generational homes, how are we reaching everybody within that home? That would be something that I think would be the hard to reach group. So, but I definitely want to add the fact that we need to add some clarity, very specific things when we talk about and it's in quotations in the goal. That's why we need to identify it specifically.
Yeah, I think that's a good clarification.
Yeah.
As Randy mentioned, the hard-to-reach groups are identified by the federal government through the census. That's a technical definition. That's something we want to follow. But I was here more just to get your feedback, just to find out who we should be reaching out to, just to get a little more information on that. So it's both technical, but it's also, as representatives of the REDI Commission, just looking for some groups. As you mentioned with the non-traditional schools, non-traditional housing, that's all good. If you could expand on that, that would be fantastic as well.
If I may,
I just had one more thing. So when we think of traditional hard to reach or people that we need to reach out to or are non-identifiable, we usually think of people in non-traditional situations, but there's such a huge population in Temecula that are commuters, that are well-to-do, but they spend half of their day on the road.
Yeah.
And so when they get home in the evening, they don't have time. So to take advantage of billboards, even the electronic one from the car dealerships, I think would definitely
yes.
be a benefit to them.
In the chamber.
Another good suggestion.
In the chamber, in the Chamber of Commerce, you know, so many of our business owners are there, but the community comes in and goes. Can we put one of these there or ask them to pass some out for us?
Yeah, and we have the park and ride on
Yes.
Temecula Parkway.
Yeah, that's really good.
And I think we're just, when we talk about these groups, you know, again, we go back to some of the census identified or the federally identified, you know, hard-to-reach groups. And I think that also, that speaks volumes. If we're going to even go that route with just that definition in and of itself, then once we get online, this needs to be, and I just looked myself, there needs to be a very clear space where this pops up and we can start getting into other languages. And that's not necessarily clearly identified. So that is something that I would say we sort of struck out there on the first one, just only in the sense that as soon as I log in, I don't, if I'm a person who does not speak English, I don't know what to do now. I see a big green thing. That must mean go. So you know, but then it's sort of lost on that part right there. So I think that's you know, our language. If we're looking at certainly religions as well, because we know that's something that is diverse, another piece of our diverse population. So how are we reaching our various religious groups, you know? And so I know there was some identified on your list as well, and it sounds like we have several that are sitting on the Blue Ribbon Committee, but what is the feedback from them in terms of reaching those groups as well? I don't have the answer to that necessarily. I'm actually asking, like, we have these people in these places on that committee for a purpose, and so reaching them and getting that information, it would be helpful, I think, even to our commission to know their suggestions. Because this is a dialogue. So knowing from the rabbi or knowing from a priest or whomever, it would be interesting to know what their suggestions are and how to reach their community.
Absolutely. The Interfaith Council is all religions. We'll be sharing this information with them. And hopefully the number of respondents to the survey is a good indicator of that. But then we can follow up individually with those representatives.
Yeah, and I would just go, again, you know, hitting our special needs community. And I don't have the answer, but I think we need to find a way, or at least start the conversation with the appropriate people in terms of even getting them to take this survey, right? And how do we get to, how do we translate this to our blind community? You know?
I wasn't gonna even say, I just
really,
gave up 'cause
that's-
I think this poor man gonna be here. No, I've just been sitting here, my mind is like, and it's just too much for you. I just think this is just too much for you tonight to take in, like,
He's excited. What are you talking about?
You excited, Matt? You
No,
excited?
I mean, this is part of the challenge, going through a process, making it inclusive, accessible to everyone. And that's part of the reason we're here, is to get this feedback
Yes.
and reach as many people as possible. And that's all we can do, is when we get to the end, report back on who we reached out to
And who we tried.
and who we tried,
We tried.
and make it as transparent as possible.
Commissioner
We don't want to leave anybody out, but someone's going to be left out.
Commissioner Faulkner, and that's true.
No, I just want to add to it, you know, when you provide the list of who's already in the QLMP, who's meeting with you on a regular basis, you know, my thing is, I think we look outside of what's already at the table. Are there gaps that are not actually at the table? Like Interfaith is covering all the religions, and there's other religious organizations a part of it. But when we look at that laundry list of people who are at the table, I think our add to this, and just my feeling, is we look at what's not already there and see how we can bridge the gap and identify those groups of people that they're not getting the feedback on. Because if you look at who they have there, you have education there, you have faith-based organizations there, you have healthcare there. So you know, how do we look at that and look at where the gaps are, where we can fill? And I think that's what you need. I think we gave you some great feedback tonight of some things that have not been there. But I think as we look from this point forward, let's look at that and then look at opportunities to fill those gaps that are not represented there. So I just want to provide that feedback.
Yeah, I've received a ton of good feedback tonight. Please understand, we're going to rely on you as representatives of the REDI Commission, other representatives who may not be on the Blue Ribbon Committee, but helping spread the word, identify the resources, get people to the information. It's going to take all of us, quite honestly. I know I can't do it by myself.
Yeah.
That's pretty clear tonight.
Look,
I'm going to try.
this-
I'll try my
This
best.
group up here, they're ready to give a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah. But what we want is a transparent process, and when we get to the end, we can identify the list, we can explain, we went to all of the boards and commissions, asked for their input, the number of respondents to the surveys, the amount of feedback we've given, the number of pop-up events. We're going to try to reach everybody. So, and this isn't the last time I'll be here. Be back probably 2 or 3 more times. So probably the next meeting will be another update, another report on all of the public outreach. I'll be asking for more feedback on who to reach out to, and then the next time we'll probably have a draft document for you to take a look at.
Commissioner Ward.
Awesome. Yes, thank you, Chair Baker. I was just going to add to what Commissioner Pastorian said, because I do know a lot of individuals in the community that Spanish is their primary language, so they don't necessarily know how to, or hear about some of these events or know how to get engaged. But if you ever, at one of your pop-ups or workshops, and I'm available, I would love to help with that. I can definitely be out there to speak to the Spanish-speaking community.
That would be great.
So
That would be
definitely,
great.
yes.
We'll
But-
share when the next pop-up event is, and this survey will be in Spanish as well.
Awesome, thank you. But no, I heard a lot of great, I already heard some groups, the veterans, the homeless, the older adults, individuals that don't have internet, but definitely we'll send you some more suggestions as well.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question for you, and this is maybe a hard question for you, I don't know. As you are doing these pop-up events and you're getting all this information, obviously 100%, right, is what the reaching for the stars in terms of participation, understanding, and all of that. But what really is the goal? Like, what does success look like for you? Because that'll help us certainly get you where you want to be.
A successful pop-up event has to do with the number of people that we get to talk to. And I think the people that show up to that pop-up event, it depends on where we go. So the farmer's market is one segment of the population. When we go to a sporting event, it's going to be another. If we go to Friendship Park or the Christmas light parade, it's going to be a little different. But I think a successful pop-up event is just getting the feedback and the diversity of feedback from those different populations.
Yeah, I think that's important too, is to understand, you know, certainly for us, and I would imagine for you too, is, you know, if you're going, does success look like, you know, interaction with one resident? Or does it look like what you had, which was great, you know, you obviously had 50 different people come up and talk to you, and you have great participation, that's obviously success, right? But as you grow and we push to get more interaction and participation and put the awareness out there, the idea and the picture of what success looks like starts to change and grow with that. And to know what, you know, what your goals are will certainly help us push harder and in certain areas that in the populations that you want to see
Yeah.
growth. So if, as you start to continue to do that, certainly feel free to share with our commission what area of what it's looking like. How is that success picture changing for you, and how we can continue to help and be assistance to you.
Yeah, it's very good. We're looking for diversity of thought, diversity of interest. A lot of that reinforced kind of what we knew. We got a lot of positive feedback. We got a lot of stuff that reinforced the existing core values. We're looking for some different ideas from different segments of the population, things we haven't considered before. So that will be success, is maybe a new core value, maybe different indicators that help us measure success, expanding the document.
I know for lots of people, when they have goals, numbers are a huge part of that. And obviously, one of your big goals is to get as many people as possible to fill out that survey. And I find really helpful, and a lot of people do, is to keep those numbers very visible. So if you say 5,000 people have filled out the survey so far, I want to get to 10,000 people by this time next month. And share those numbers, so that way your commissions are becoming more interactive, your city council is becoming more interactive, because now we have a goal as a city, we need to reach this. And at the same time, we're bringing everybody along with us, and at the same time, we're accomplishing our goals. So I think sharing that information and then knowing those metrics and continuously upping that game, I think will be very helpful.
It puts us in competition with ourselves, and that is where we all win, quite frankly. So you're
Absolutely.
right.
Are you all's hearts clear so this man can go home? Well, what I want to say, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for, first of all, I want to explain my team here. We're very passionate about the families, and that's what you heard here today. So first of all, none of our feedback was meant to be derogatory. And I know you didn't take it
None
that way,
taken,
but I
yeah.
want to make sure, because other people are watching, and we represent the city. And we want people to know REDI is here to serve in these capacities. This was one of the best meetings we've had because you engaged us where our hearts are, where our pain points are for our city, for our specific communities. So there was a lot of passion, and I want to thank all the commissioners for their input and their passion. And I want to thank you for listening and working with us. And I think we're going to do some great things because we want to. And so
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Matt.
thanks for having me. I
You're welcome.
appreciated the feedback.
Yes.
And I look forward to more meetings and more conversation on this. I'll definitely be back.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right,
You have
thanks.
a wonderful evening. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Brings us to our commission reports. You can go. Yes, I usually work in to us last, but you were so excited. You just snatched up your paper.
Oh,
You
no.
was ready, so.
Thank you, Chair Baker. See, where do I begin? So yes, I wanted to report out that I met with Ms. Alva Ruiz. She is a teacher over at Chaparral High School. She also leads the Latinos Unidos Club over at Chaparral. And if you may recall, back in September, that group received the proclamation for the National Hispanic, Latino, and Heritage Month. So I did meet with her. I got to see their Dia de los Muertos display. She talked about what the group does. The group is pretty awesome. Their mission is sharing, teaching, celebrating culture, not just their culture, but all cultures. They're very inclusive, welcome anyone to join their club. And they started doing, or last month, the group, during lunchtime, I wasn't there, but they did a salsa dance lessons. And she showed me a video, and there were hundreds of students dancing during lunch, which I thought was amazing because I love the arts, and I always say that visual and performing arts bring individuals together. So it was just great to see. But with that being said, the Latinos Unidos Club is having a tamales fundraiser, but because of COVID, they're only taking orders from teachers and staff. But if anybody would like to contribute to the club for supplies and other events, you're more than welcome to do so. You can reach out to Randy. I think we have an email already as well, too, or email readycommission@temeculaca.gov, and we can provide her information to you. So we can't use city funds, but if anyone is more than welcome to donate to the club. So that conversation with her was pretty awesome. She's wanting to partner with REDI on different things. We're just starting the conversations. And along those lines, I did come to the November 9th City Council meeting to see some of the proclamations. They had the World Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Day, the National Veterans and Military Families Month proclamation. So thank you to all who are serving and who have served. They also had the National Native American Heritage Month. And after those presentations, I did meet Miss Amy Ricken, who's the principal at Great Oak High School. And we had a great conversation outside. So we talked briefly about some of the successes that she's having with the students and groups coming together and engaging. So I thought it was great, and I know she wants to continue the conversation as well. And I have her contact if anybody would like to reach out. She said I'm okay to share her information. And then also, let's see. I want to say happy birthday to my son Louis, who's going to watch this tomorrow.
Happy
10th
birthday,
birthday.
Louis.
And I want to also congratulate Chair Baker on 20 years at the Empowerment Center. It was an honor to be at your founder appreciation celebration. I think everybody that was there was crying at least 3/4 of the time, if not the whole time. But we heard some of the youth there and the benefits of the program and everything that the Chair Baker and her team has done. So I just want to say that you're amazing and your team is amazing. And I mean, I already knew
you.
that you all care about the community and others, not just youths, but just others. And I'm just super inspired. And so I'm very honored to serve with you on this commission, but also to be your friend. So I just want to congratulate you. That was amazing.
Now, I wasn't expecting you to do that. Thank you so much. Thank you
Yes.
very much. Who wants to go? Commissioner Faulkner, would you like? I'll start on this end.
Thanks, Chair Baker. So we've had a great conversation. I've been having a great conversation with a lot of youth around the city as I'm walking around having conversations, making sure they know their voice needs to be heard in our city, get involved with the political process, see what their thoughts are about how things are going, and really talking to them about the REDI Commission. So a lot of great feedback in regards to what's going on, what the commission is about, and just having some good dialogue with our youth in the city, just to make sure that they understand that their voice is powerful here and it needs to be heard at our city council meetings. Because one of the things you brought up is, how do we keep them here? I mean, when they leave, how do we get them to come back? You know, and some of the things that they brought up, well, Mr. Faulkner, when you look around, I'm not a winery person, I'm not an Old Town person, I'm not a Pachanga person. So as I grow out of sports, what keeps me here? I mean, what are some of those things? You know, one of the things, music. I mean, Mr. Faulkner, when you look at music, what artists are they bringing that gets me excited about wanting to go and listen to them? So, you know, when we look at our youth and we engage them, we need to really listen to their voice of what they want in our city that will make them want to come back. And that's what some of the conversations I'm having. How do we engage them, and what do we bring when they are at that high school age, going to college, and what will keep them here? Because if we don't find a way to do that, our city will age out, right? And we won't have that youthful experience here. So we got to find a way to reach them, and I'm liking the conversations I'm having with them and the feedback I'm getting as well. The Veterans Day event was wonderful. I appreciate the leadership of the city putting that on. It was a great event recognizing the veterans and how we continue to do that every year. I had a chance to speak to some of the veterans at that event, so kudos to the city and how you put that on. It's always a great event. And before Veterans Day, I want to make sure I give props to my Marines in the house. Happy birthday. You just had a birthday right before, so happy birthday to all the Marines as well. The Pachanga Puesca Mountain Day event, amazing. I've watched that documentary like 2 times since I left that event. And man, I never knew about it because I was active duty when it was going on about the quarry and the fight. But it was great to see our city come together and go to war for our citizens, our Native Americans. It was amazing to see that. And I think we need to, continue to work to get back there in our dialogue and our discourse and our conversations with one another. I was just so excited about it. Went home, watched it again, and I tried to look through it through the eyes of a Native American, just like we should look at things through the eyes of our citizens when they're going through something. And I couldn't get past the point if I were them looking at what they went through and saying, not again. And the concern of and their trust in our government and how that played out. And I was just engaged, energized to see that Temecula surrounded their citizens that were being excluded from the process and including them and engaging to ensure that that went right. But what we got to see out of that was the bad things of politics, right? How bad politics can get and how it can get in the way of doing the right thing. So it engaged me. I learned a lot from it. And then how we engage this work is REDI. There are a lot of things we can take away from that and that engagement to continue to push forward and really work on this work with our city and with our city council to continue to make this a city that people feel like they belong. So thank you, Chair Baker, and appreciate you allowing me to share that. Thanks.
Commissioner Pastorian? I meant to say Steve. Sorry, Jesus. I'm looking at Steve, thinking about Pastorian and trying to hold it together up here.
Alrighty, okay, I did attend the Pachanga Puesca Mountain Day as well last night, and it was absolutely beautiful. I actually remember when it was all going on, and just to watch all the, different gears through that whole process was absolutely insane. And I remember the day too, when Pachanga announced that they bought that site, and it was amazing. But what also stays with me is that our city and our city council, through all these years, have been very steadfast on their mission, on protecting Temecula, on protecting the future of Temecula. So it's beautiful to see them in action, knowing what the future is going to bring. 10 years ago, we were a different city when all that happened, right? We were a very different city, but they still have the foresight to see what we're going to need and where we need to be, and they knew it was going to be a bad thing, and so they were just going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that quarry wasn't going to be in here. So good for them, and good for Pachanga. They've always been such a steady partner of the city since forever, and we're very, very fortunate to have them as a good partner and as a good neighbor. Also, I checked out the mural at the park, and it's absolutely beautiful. I wasn't able to make it the day that it was unveiled. I had a friend actually pass away within an hour of that, but I had every intention of going. The mural is absolutely beautiful. I went afterwards and took pictures, and it's great to be able to see our youth able to express themselves through art especially, and the city is giving them that freedom to do that, so that's a beautiful thing. I will remind everybody again about Christmas Tree Lane, the Habitat event that's going on at the mall right now. The trees are absolutely gorgeous. Santa is right next door. He's as cute as a button. So I encourage everybody to take their family there. If you're not familiar with it, we have a firefighter tree. We have lots of different themed trees that we do every single year to acknowledge the people within our community and the hard work that they do. So definitely check it out. It's super, super fun. But that is it for me, and obviously congrats to our chair. You are phenomenal, and you have done so much work in this community and will continue to do it, and it was a pleasure to be there and to see all those people honor you and those beautiful children speak so well of you. It was wonderful.
Thank you for coming. And last but not least, oh, Lord, I thought you went. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, Lord, I'm breaking my rhythm. Commissioner Ivy Harris, I give you the floor, my dear.
No, you're fine. Thank you. I appreciate that. November was an extremely busy month, I feel, for Temecula, and even, part of October. There were so many things going on, and I feel blessed and privileged to have been able to attend and be a part and see our city celebrate our indigenous community in Temecula, from the National Native American Heritage Month, which is actually just absolutely beautiful, to the mural. I got to check out the mural. I think that it is an amazing ode and acknowledgement of the resiliency of the community, or the indigenous community in Temecula. It means a lot to me as someone who has lived close to the res and to the mountains, and as a child, and actually today went back there where I legally could, I want to put that on the record, and sit underneath the oak trees and sit in a moment of gratitude to the individuals who lived on this land and who have provided an amazing place for children to grow and a community to grow. It's absolutely wonderful. So going to the event last night to commemorate National Puesca Day, Mountain Puesca Day, was wonderful. I was quite young when the fight against the quarry was going on, but I remember hearing about it, and I remember the day that that Pechanga bought the mountain. And what a victory for the city, and what a victory for the indigenous community here. But at the end of the movie, I thought very moving was their acknowledgement of the indigenous communities from Alaska to Canada, through the United States, through South America, who continue to fight aggressive industry who move into their land, and do not have any method to outright buy the land, but like to fight really, really extremely powerful individuals who do not care, who absolutely do not care for their sacred land. I love that our city was able to come together and to acknowledge that this was a land that needed to be protected, that needed to be respected, and that we could all move forward together. So it was a great opportunity to sit and acknowledgement, and I hope that us as a community within the United States and around the world can come together to respect BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color as they continue to fight for access to green space, to healthy water, to access to nutritional food, or just outright respect for their history, where their ancestors were. That fight continues, and it was, like I've said, it was amazing to be there. So I also had the opportunity to sit down with our Riverside County Sheriff's Department, with the group Temecula, the community group Temecula Unity, organized by Julie Geary, and that was an amazing opportunity. It was a group of us, 6 of us, with 6 officers, including Captain Zach Hall. We had a 3-hour-long discussion about a series of things from the CBAP, I believe that's what their new program is, with having a mental health specialist go along for rides where it's determined that an individual might not be mentally stable, which is amazing. Also the work that they're doing in order to create a database that has the information of individuals with special needs, which is extremely important for me as an auntie to a beautiful young man who is getting older and older, who has autism, and for a long time had behavioral issues. And, you know, for some people, calling the police and them not understanding that could be life or death.
Right.
So
Yes.
that was absolutely huge. We spoke about transparency and accountability, which is super huge. But I just also, I'm not touching everything that we talked about. I want to make that clear. But the fact that we were able to sit with officers in our community and have a conversation is huge. It says a lot about our city. It says a lot about the direction that we're going. And Temecula, as with the REDI Commission, we have the absolute opportunity not only to sit here and say, okay, these are the needs that need to be met, but we also have the opportunity to see what we're doing okay and all right and move forward and be what the country should see. They should see their citizens sitting with their police officers and having conversations, and our police force saying that, you know, this conversation is going well. At some points it was tense, but we want to have more. If you have community members that want to sit with us, we will make an appointment. And it's not necessarily the easy conversations that get things done. It's the hard conversations. And something that Captain Hall said that really stuck with me is he thinks that being a police officer, I thought it was quite interesting, was a customer service job. You are giving service to the individuals within your city. If they're saying that something is not working, if they're saying that they're not being treated right, if they're saying that something is wrong, it is your job to adapt and figure out and change. That's huge. So I look forward to moving forward with having conversations, productive conversations with law enforcement. I hope to engage other community members who might feel uncomfortable. There were a lot that felt uncomfortable being in that space. Speaking honestly and openly for me, at first I felt very tense. But wow, what happened at the end of that? How hearts were cleared.
Your hearts were cleared.
How hearts were cleared.
And that's always good when we can come together and our hearts be cleared.
Yes, but to speak candidly and honestly, it was an amazing opportunity for all of us to speak with Captain Zach Hall several months ago, and a lot of the conversation was centered around that and seeing how they had moved forward with some of the ideas that they had brought towards us. So if anyone's interested in having a glimpse of the conversation that we had, you can go on YouTube and check out our conversation with the Riverside Sheriff's Police Department. So that was absolutely great. Like I said, I'm so sorry. This month was busy. This month is busy. So I also got to attend the Veterans Day event, which was beautiful. I thank city staff for putting that on. It was a wonderful commemoration and celebration of the bravery and sacrifice of our veterans. And I felt like it was an emotional one for me because both my grandfathers were servicemen. My grandfather, Frederick Douglass Harris, was in the Air Force, and through the Air Force traveling, he met my grandmother, so that is a part of who I am. And also, my grandfather, Alfred Spencer Bernal, was a Navyman and fought in Vietnam and worked until the day that he died at 74 on the boat. That was who he was. His service was who he was. And it made me miss both of them because they were absolutely great men. And I think that the way that they presented themselves and who they were was vastly because of their service and the pride that they had in serving their country. I think I'm wrapping up, actually. That was a long one. Thank you all so much.
You're welcome. Commissioner Pastorian?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
First, let me start by saying I want to apologize and acknowledge your 20 years of service. I apologize because I could not be there. And I felt horrible about not being there. It's the first thing I said to you when I came in.
I didn't know
tonight.
you were invited. So
I know.
I didn't know.
I know.
I didn't know.
But I know. So, but there were some reasons, and a little bit of, I'll touch on that in a second. But with that, I do want to acknowledge your 20 years of service. That is remarkable, to say the least. And part of what I want to talk about tonight is why that's so remarkable. There's a couple pieces that are going to sound disjointed, but I want to tie them together here in the end, and that's part of it. Okay. So I appreciate what you have done in our community for our youth, for our families, and what you continue to do. And I look forward to seeing all of your future endeavors as you continue to move walls, because I know that's what you do.
That is what I do.
I saw I was at the unveiling of the mural for the Native American Heritage Month, and it was incredible. It was our largest turnout. It was incredible to see the children, to see the families, to see the support, to see the teachers, to see the principals of our Native children that are going to school on the res who did that mural. It was just so beautiful. And here's the best part. While we typically do these mural unveilings and the artist speaks, our mayor, Marianne Edwards, did a phenomenal thing, and she turned to one of the youth and she asked them to talk. What she was not expecting was that youth would take the microphone and completely run the entire rest of the unveiling. And walked her entirely through the mural, every single depiction that was on it. At one point, she turned and said that they should run for mayor. So it was great. It was really great because that child shined so incredible during that day, and they were supported by their community in all that they teach and preserving their heritage and their culture, and seeing that. And I have too, Commissioner Faulkner, watched that documentary so many times, and so many things stick out. One of them is, could you imagine if things went the other way?
Right. Lord.
And how incredibly devastating that could have been for us, really, and for them, and for our Native community here. And so it's interesting to think about what could have happened should we have not come together at that time. And so that's sort of where, I want to talk about why I could not be necessarily at your 20 years, and this will tie back into the idea of the fight that our Pechanga community had to have, as well as the city. And that is that I was running a couple of youth camps. But what happened and what made me make a decision to not be where I knew I wanted to be, which was with you, there was a youth that I had that was part of the LGBTQ plus community, and has been part of the LGBTQ plus community for quite some time. But recently, I had another youth come and get involved in some things that I was doing, and it was quite interesting because that particular youth came to me and started talking and having a real dialogue about the difficulty, about how they felt and were being treated, not just by people socially, but at home and within their own family. And it was kind of hard. But they found comfort with the others who were completely out and doing all the things and experiencing life with no hindrance and no barriers within the community. And within 2 weeks of these two separate events with the same group of people, that individual made a choice to come out and talk and trust others. And I needed to be there to support that youth at a time when they needed to feel supported. And what I learned from that experience is there's so many things that we just don't know, right? We learned so many battles that our children are fighting, and so many things that we just take for granted, just socially and in their life and emotionally in their life. And but having the support of others is what made the difference. It wasn't my support, it was the support of others, like-minded people who provided encouragement, and literally the words were, "I remember feeling that way too when I first came out." And hearing those words were so incredibly powerful for me as a bystander, and hearing this between two kids, right? Kids, really, and teenagers, were so incredibly powerful because they found acceptance within each other, and that was the turning table for them to have the courage and the bravery and the confidence and the wherewithal emotionally inside to confront their family and talk with their family. It was a profound experience in my life, but it was even more so for them. It was their experience. What the tie-in between all of these things, between your 20 years of service and the things that you have done within the community and endured to have 20 years of service, with people who are going through things within what I saw within our LGBTQ community plus community, as well as what our Native American friends, not just locally, but as Commissioner Harris stated, all over, right, all over, are fighting for and continue to fight for, is really something that I think every single one of us can understand individually, because we all know what integrity is, right? We're just doing the right thing when no one's looking. And we talk about that so frequently, and we talk about doing the right thing when no one's looking. But what we don't talk about necessarily is the emotional impacts of what that actually means, of how hard it is to do the right thing when no one's looking. Because that is not easy, and how that feels while no one's looking is the difference between the hard times. You don't get to 20 years of service without feeling a certain way and going through some dirt and some mud and getting getting bruised up and in there, but you do it because it's the right thing, and you know it's the right thing, and you stick to your guns about it. You stick to what you know is right, and you continue to endure. That is the same thing, and even in that documentary that we saw, you know, there were some powerful moments where one of the chairmen, I think it was one of the chairmen on the tribal commission is talking, and he is incredibly emotionally broken up over the fact that he was making a decision, and it was the right decision for the community. That was so much bigger than just one person or even just Pechanga, right? That was big. That impacted everybody, all of us, and generations to come. The decision of watching these two youth talk about being able to acknowledge who they were and embrace who they were and come out to their families is very difficult. But again, they did that with the idea and the concept of having integrity, was doing the right thing. They felt that they needed to do the right thing, and that was being truthful to who they were and being truthful to their family. And really having that authentic self. It requires a lot of support. And I think sometimes we forget about that. The people who are doing the right thing need support. They need friends. They need others. They need to feel that they are being seen, because it is not an easy road to do the right thing. It is simply not. And we saw that in our documentary. We see that as we celebrated Puesca Day, right? We saw that's the whole idea. And you can see that, and I work in a high school, and I work with our with Pechanga, Luiseño youth and tribal teenagers, and how and what that really means to them today, even as youth members. And it's interesting to see that they take note of this and how they embrace it as the new generation coming into our community. But we have to remember to support each other during difficult times, and difficult times might mean it's doing the right thing. It may not seem like it's difficult at the time, but we can't forget that. And certainly as we come into the season of the holidays of being thankful, I truly am thankful for every single one of you on this commission. We cannot do what it is that we do by ourselves. We simply don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the capacity. I couldn't be at Chairman Baker's event, but many of you were. I could not be at the celebration last night, but many of you were. And I can't be at some of our city council meetings, but many of you are. And so it is together that we are able to accomplish the things that we need to accomplish and sit up here and be effective. We are stronger together. Absolutely stronger together. And that is not only a lesson here, but we can learn that from Pechanga. The band that we had as a city and as a tribe coming together, and community leaders in different parts coming together, we showed how strong we can be when we come together. I would say that we don't need something wrong or bad to happen in order to come together. We need to come together for the right reasons all the time to continue to make the difference for everybody, so that we can have quality of life here in Temecula.
Thank you for your report. Vice Warden Chair. Oh. You did. You went. Everyone's went. It's your turn. Oh, Lord. I'm trying to. First of all, I was supposed to be on vacation, so let's start there. I canceled my trip because I could not miss yesterday, and today was a special meeting. We were dark for November 11th because of Veterans Day. So I'm trying to catch up, and my eyes are dry, and I'm feeling a little dizzy. So, sorry for that, but it's so much was shared, and I won't share because I was at a lot of these events. So for the sake of time, I won't share. But what I would like to share is our Native brothers and sisters. Man, last night touched me deeply. And I know this is some political issues for a lot of people. I don't want to talk about the political issues. I want to talk about the people. The people that stood for what was theirs. The people that rallied behind them, which was our city. I'm so moved to be a part of our leadership. Because being integrous is doing the right thing when no one is looking. But being responsible is doing the right thing, having the courage to do the right thing when it is not popular. Like sitting on such a council that everyone hates. Hopefully you all don't hate us now. You know we not doing all other stuff. And I just was like, Lord, the struggle that they've went through, but the victory that they have. And for those of you that don't know, I have a special place in my heart for our indigenous brothers and sisters, and we have a saying that if it's good, and if it's good in one part of Native country, it's good for Indian country all over, to your point of they show how many Native communities had to come together to what was best for them and their community. And I think sometimes we forget that because everyone's focusing on what's best for me and my segment of the community. But what I saw last night was that the city came together and got in a fight for people that needed them. And that's what Temecula is about. It's not about what the demographic is. It's about if we show up when we're needed. To your point about those students, thank you for being there for them. Because that's a political hot topic. You know, what do you feel about the LGBTQ? And please forgive me if I don't know the rest of the letters. Please, I'm not being derogatory or disrespectful. I'm making a point here. If we can stop with the labels and see the people that are represented. And I went to Mayor Edwards last night, and I threw my arms around her, and I said, I'm proud to know you, and I'm proud to serve with you, because you represent who I am. If I see an underdog, I'm not here for one group. I'm here for the groups that never have a voice, and the first and foremost is for the children. For the children. And to have 22 years, but COVID robbed us. 2020 was my 20th year of service, and this June made 21. I just reflect on those things because I want to give my time and my energy to what matters. I want to know, like the gentleman in the video said, what am I going to tell my grandchildren if I don't fight? What am I going to tell my grandchildren? And that's how I feel. What are we going to tell our children? What state are we going to leave them in? And so as long as I hold this seat and sit on this commission, I always represent the voice of the children first. And I don't care what children they are, black, white, Latino, Asian, one eye, one leg, one foot, one toe. If you saw my big toe and what they did to me as a child, that's why I love children, because they tease me with my big toe as a joke. I tell the kids, you know, to let them, when they come to my camps. I just love people. I love the Lord, and I love to serve. And thank all of you for coming to celebrate me. I missed some of you just once I found some of you was there, and I was grateful for all of you. Everyone that sent a thank you, a card, a message, a well intention. You know, the Lord, only one came back to thank the Lord, but many came back to thank me. Me, just a little girl from the inner city of Chicago that said, Lord, you can use me. So thank you, City of Temecula, for using me, allowing me to serve. Thank you for coming. Thank you for celebrating me. And here's to 20 more years of doing it together, because I was alone for a long time here doing it. Meeting the needs of the people that weren't seen, which is the hurting. And that means all of you at one point. And people that look like you walk through my doors. And we were there to catch you. We were there to catch you with the love of Christ without pushing religion down your throat. We were here to say we can relate to you as humans, although we may not have had your experience. And we are here to advocate for your children, even if it's against you, because sometimes I don't make some parents angry, but that's okay. Their kids thank me. And so I just want to say thank you. My heart is just grateful. There's a lot of emotion today for me, but the number one emotion is gratitude, thank you, honored that the Lord would use me, and honored to be a part of this city and serving. And I will conclude my report. And I do want to, I know we talked about going to the state of the city, but I was moved by that as well. I was moved by our spirit of excellence here. People are jealous of Temecula because we get it in, and we're not a perfect city. That's why we need people like us to come and say, let's add this or do this. But heck, we pretty good. We pretty good. I just need to say that myself. The state of the city was amazing, and Mayor Edwards brought the house down. And she did a really good job of being inclusive. She had to check a lot of boxes because of where our community is. And she struck the right tone, and I want to say that to her public. Oh, she was here, she was gone. I want to say that to her publicly. I was very impressed of her inclusivity, and I will conclude my report. Randy, I can turn it over to you, Executive Joel.
I will keep my comments very brief. First of all, Chair Baker, it was an honor to be at the event honoring your 20 years of service, 22 years of service to the children and the families of the city of Temecula. It's been such an amazing almost 1 year working with this commission. This is our second to the last meeting, wrapping up our first year. We're in November, we started in January. So with that, I do want to remind everyone, the Blue Ribbon committee meetings are open to the public. They are also available on the city's YouTube page and are recorded. So for any member of the public or any board or commission member out there that wants to go ahead and listen in, irrespective of whether they happen to be the representative or not, those are all public. And then lastly, I want to go ahead and mention that I had the privilege this morning of being a panel member representing cities on a equity webinar led by the Institute of Local Government. And so I had the opportunity to represent cities in the state of California, and then we had 3 other speakers, one representing special districts, one representing counties, and one representing transportation type of agencies. So that was a great 2-hour webinar, and we had over 150 people attend up and down the state. So so that was great. So that was good. And then you guys have given us a laundry list of items, as always. So we will be working with community development to go ahead and bring back whatever it is that we need to for you guys. And that concludes my report.
Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. And our next meeting here, let me tell you, is December 9th. And so until we meet again, may the Lord bless you all, and this meeting is adjourned.